Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome here to Pop Culture Philosophers. And sorry, we are about a half hour late, but it's because I've been having such a great chat with a homie that I'm about to bring out. You know what that means. It means we're about to have a great comic book conversation. First and foremost, let me just let you know Stephen R. Bissette, legendary creator, artist, movie commentarier. He's done a lot of film commentaries on Blu-rays and shit like that. Really cool. His epic work of Tyrant is starting right now in its final week on Kickstarter. It's already blown past its goal. A lot of stretch goals as well. Tyrant is already funded. If you are not down for this book, you need to be down for this book. I had a conversation with Steve a few weeks ago, and it was great. And that conversation only happened because of this gentleman I'm about to bring out to the show. He is the mind behind the madness of the comic lighthouse that we have in existence right now in this industry. Lighthouse Press, Kickstarter, Stephen Bissette, Tyrant. It all leads us here to a conversation with who I am now proud to say is a homie of mine. Let's bring him out. Chris Stevens. What's up, homie?
Hey, Robbie. Thanks for having me, buddy. Thrilled to get a chance to sit down and talk with you, man. I love it.
Dude, super excited. It was hard to do an intro because we just talked for 30 minutes. I feel like we're already vibing. We're already good. And nobody watching even knows what was going on. But let me tell you something. When Chris first reached out to me, just through our little bit of conversation, setting up the Bissette conversation, which, by the way, thank you so much, dude. That meant so much to me. Dude, having somebody reach out to me saying, hey, would you mind if Stephen Bissette came on to your show to have a chat about Tyrant? I'm like, what? Yes, let's do it, man. So thank you so great. Yeah, thank you first and foremost for that. We had a great show. We went over 2 hours, me and him. I want to have him back on the show just to talk about movies.
Oh, yeah.
Screw comics, fuck comics, all that shit, right? However, comics are great. And Tyrant is an incredibly successful fundraiser already. You are the mind behind putting this together. Before we get into just before we get into just having a fun chat, can you just tell me, I'm very curious, how did you've done some successful stuff before. What led you to Tyrant and working with Bissette and working with our homie Jim? Like, how did this all come together, brah?
Yeah, no, well, I'll tell you, there is a path to it. Back in 2015, when I was I lived in Philadelphia and I owned a comic book shop called Locust Moon, and we also published books. And one of them was called Little Nemo Dream Another Dream. Won several Eisners in the 2015 Eisners, and it won Harvey Awards and NPR Book of the Year type stuff. And Jim Rugg, who I had known for about 10 years before that, even, because I was good friends with Farrell Dalrymple.
And Jim's in the Pittsburgh area, right?
Jim's in Pittsburgh, and I was in Philly, but Pittsburgh and Philly are so far apart, it might as well be different countries. So it wasn't like a geographical connection. And when I met Jim, I was still in South Jersey, actually. But I met him through Farrell Dalrymple. He was a good friend of mine, and Farrell knew Jim, and they were sort of both starting to become name creators around the same time, I would say, very early 2000s. So I had known Jim a bit, and then Jim was going to be the designer of the Little Nemo book, and Jim would come to Philly sometimes and visit the shop. And in the course of that, he said to me one day, he said, hey, do you like Stephen Bissette? And we had never really talked about it, but Steve is one of these foundational figures to me. He's one of these men whose names have been in my head as much as any family member I've had. Steve's name was in my head since I was 8 years old, because really because of the Swamp Thing with Alan Moore, and in particular because of the anatomy lesson, the very famous issue of Swamp Thing 21, where they sort of reinvented Swamp Thing. And I didn't read that when I was 8 or 9, but there was the first comic shop in my life that opened in my little small town in South Jersey, and all the older kids would talk about Swamp Thing, and in every DC comic that summer had a house ad that, the anatomy lesson, right? So it was like this, and I was 8, 9 years old, and I sort of knew what an anatomy was. I thought of like, the taking parts out of a body or something. It was fascinating, right? So it just stuck in my head. And then when I finally started to read it when I was probably 10 or 11, yeah, just very foundational. So when Jim said that to me, did I like Steve? I was like, oh man, like he's one of the prime figures for me. And he said, did you know he did a Tyrant in Slumberland page? He did a Little Nemo page with Tyrant that had nothing to do with the Little Nemo book we were in the middle of producing. And I said, no, that's wild. Like I had no clue, and hadn't been, I didn't know Steve at all. I'd never been in touch with him or anything. So that would have been around 2013, 14, something like that. And I got in touch with Steve, and his page wound up being included in that Little Nemo book that did pretty well. And we stayed in touch on and off from there. And I was in touch with Jim. Jim would come to Philadelphia and come to the festivals we would do. And I'd stay in touch with Jim a little bit. And I'd stay in touch with Steve here and there, just on Facebook, just send a message, every now and then. But Tyrant was always on my mind, and I had some down years. The Locust Moon stuff sort of dissolved in the beginning of 2016, and it took me a while to sort of get on my feet after that, and sort of start over. And in that time, I wasn't really thinking of ever putting out my own books again, or I was just trying to get my life together at that time. But in the last 5 or 6 years, I've edited a ton of books and put together a ton of projects for other people or publishers, and been part of a lot of crowdfunding where it wasn't my project, but I was the one who put the book together or was instrumental in making the project happen. And I've seen it work and not work. So over that time, I think I started to think more about, I'm working a lot. I'm doing this. I haven't had less than 15 projects going as a freelance editor at one time in like 4 years. So like it can be a busy thing, and it can grind you down. And I just started to want to think of like, oh, what else, right? So a couple of years ago, I guess about halfway through that, if I'm saying 5 or 6 years, maybe 3 years ago, a little bit longer, I said, you know what, like Steve had been in the Golem of Venice Beach, Robbie, these books called the Golem of Venice Beach. So we'd been connected through that, and Steve enjoyed the experience. He hadn't really drawn pages in a long time, but he drew 2 pages for the Golem of Venice Beach book 1. That was 2021-ish or so. So we're still connected at that point. I start to feel better about myself and the work I'm doing in comics, and sort of trying to get back to maybe doing my own thing like I did in the Locust Moon time. And the Tyrant was just always on my mind. And I asked Steve through Facebook several times. We've told the story a bunch in some of the talks, and he might have talked about it with you. But yeah, I asked him several times. I would message him and, how are you, Steve? And say, hey, Tyrant's on my mind, and I think I could set it up. I don't even know, Robbie, if I was thinking of being the one who would publish it, to be honest, right? But I knew I could shepherd it, right? And I knew he trusted me. So I thought it might be appealing to him. There wasn't even a Lighthouse in my mind 3 years ago. So I just thought I could make the project happen. And whether that was with a publisher, I won't, I just thought I could make it happen, and he trusted me, and he knew it would be a good book, right? So that's kind of how it started. And he would just say no. And we've joked about this in a lot of these talks that we've done, where I would pop in, hey, Steve, how are you? Tyrant. He'd say, thanks, Chris, no. And, that went on several times. And then one day, and this is a true story, it's starting to almost feel apocryphal, but it's actually true. One day I check my messages, and there's a message from Steve. And anytime, now it's a common thing, but at that time it was still, and to this right now, this moment, if I get a message from a creator that I don't hear from often and I enjoy their work, I mean, it excites the shit out of me. So even a few years ago, getting the message from Steve was exciting to me. I was like, oh, Steve messaged me, and I check it, and it's Steve sending me a link to the cartoonist kayfabe Tyrant video and saying to me, "Hey, Chris, I just watched this. Have you seen it?" And one of the ironies, and this is another little funny bit that, you know, pops up in these talks is yes, I've known Jim literally for 20 years or 21 years or something like that. And I knew Jim did kayfabe. And I met, God bless Ed, is gone now, but I met Ed. Ed came to Philly many times. And so I knew Ed too. And I knew they did it. And I knew it was like a very hip thing, and like people were into it. I had no idea the overall breadth of it, what it meant to the generation who, let's say, 35 and under. I've discovered that since, and I think I'm becoming more fully aware. But at the time, I really wasn't. So when Steve sent it, I was like, yeah, I know he does like a, you know, I know they talk about comics on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like that was my impression of it, really. And that's no slight to them. I mean, you know, I was just like, I didn't know. I think I mentioned it to you when I reached out to you. I knew nothing about comics YouTube until like January, man. You know, I absolutely knew nothing about it. It just wasn't part of like my day. I hadn't really experienced it. So when Steve sent it, I did know enough though. I knew that Steve had a high regard for Jim. And I don't mean that he didn't for Ed. I just mean that I know specifically he had mentioned to me things about Jim. And
Well,
Jim,
Jim's a great designer.
well, and Jim had designed the Nemo book, which won the Eisner for best design. It won the Harvey for best design.
Like so, that's the Nemo. Like, I'm like, I
It's
don't
a
really
very
know. I don't really know the famous what French comic and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, no. Winsor McKay was American. He was an American guy. He was
Okay,
born in like 1870, and you know,
this is
he
the
was
big tall comic, right?
yeah,
Is this what we're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about? Okay,
Oh
I
yeah,
always
it's
thought that was French for some reason, dude.
oh, that's okay. That's okay. We'll take that as a compliment, you know. But
Yeah.
no, Jim designed those books, and I knew Steve, you know. But when I saw, yeah, when I saw the message from Steve that day, and it said, "Hey, Chris, I just watched this. Do you know about this? Have you seen it?" I kid you not, I did say to myself, "Fuck yeah, this will happen. He will do this." And I didn't even reply. I knew it. And I think I texted Jim and I said, "Hey man," because me and Jim had been talking about it, right? And Jim was like, "Well, if you could get him, you know, if it could happen, if you could, you know, get Steve to see the potential, you know, of course Jim wanted to be the designer." So I texted Jim and I said, "Hey man, I think we're gonna do this." And yeah, then it took a while since then. That was almost 3 years ago. I think I actually made people get a kick out of this. They'll either think I'm a genius or I'm a villain. Well, Robbie, I don't know how this one will land, but I made a post the other day of a private message between me and Steve. And I got Steve's permission beforehand. I texted him and I said, "Hey, I want to use this as a post and an ad because we're at the point in the campaign where you have to think of ways of stimulating the algorithm or whatnot, right? Grow awareness and all that stuff." So I used a message between me and Steve, and I think it was from July or June 2023. And it was me saying to him, like, "Hey, I know beyond doubt this will work." Like he was dealing with his son had gotten brain cancer, Michael, and sadly, you know, he passed away. I think it's coming up on 2 years. So that happened in the middle of after Steve finally finding his way through largely the kayfabe video and his seeing like the younger generation shine this light on him. After finally seeing his way to that, you know, the tragedy of his son was something that came into play. But I shared that post, and yeah, no, I do. Yeah, we're trying to sell books. We're trying to see Steve, right? We're trying to grow a campaign. So in one way, it's a crass marketing thing, but in the other way, I thought it was just a beautiful, indicator of the journey we've been on. And I just bring it up just in terms of like how did this get started. And just for anybody watching, if they get a kick out of this stuff, I knew nothing about Instagram ads till recently, and I'm trying to figure them out. And it's fascinating. I'm the same exact message that I made as a post, and Jim Rugg shared it, so it has his audience. It wasn't much of a post. People weren't interested in it. I made the same exact thing an ad where I put Project We Love badge on it, and I put like signed edition sticker or something on it, and I changed the copy a little bit, but it's just the message between me and Steve, and that thing has made the book thousands of dollars. It's made the campaign thousands of dollars.
Nice, dude.
It's crazy. It's crazy how this stuff
you know IG better than I do. I'll tell you that, dude. Like, I'm just like, this is the movie I'm watching.
No, I did again, and people laugh, but I didn't use Instagram up until I guess November, and I really didn't use it at all much until after the holidays, and then I was like, okay, you know,
Yeah,
everyone.
when Chris reached out and wanted to do this show, I said, "Hey man, I need like a photo. I need this." He's like, "Dude, I don't do any of that shit, dude, man. Here's my 8-bit Nintendo NES Nintendo Entertainment System photo.
No,
Use this."
My goal is to show up in one of these things. Hopefully we're successful, and you know, maybe the book is when the book comes out and everything, I'll show up in one of these things with the flowers in a beard, you know. I'll try
you're a good-looking man, so you shouldn't hide behind that one outdated image of you, my friend, because
you and my mother both. You both have told me that.
Your biggest supporters, Rockin Robbie and your mom. So that's awesome. So it was the kayfabe video that really set all this into motion, right?
It did. Steve said no a few times. He was very flattered, and he was always nice. And like I said, we did this book called The Golem of Venice Beach together, created by my friend Hanan Beiser. Great books, and Steve was part of the first one and has something in the second one too. But he said no. He was always nice about it, and he said, "Chris, thank you. I appreciate. I know you're serious about this. I respect that, but no, it's a work that's in the past. Blah blah blah." And the kayfabe video was the thing that swung it in the direction we're at, you know, to get us where we're at now. Absolutely.
That's the kayfabe video that made me remember Tyrant, right? Like, I remember reading about this book in Wizard. And when I had Steve on, like I mentioned, I was like, I've never read this book. 4 issues and I can't find them. I run a comic shop. I've been running a comic shop for almost 2 decades at this point.
Wow.
And I've never had a Tyrant issue come across me in the wild. I go to Heroes Con, and Jason, who does Cerebral Vortex, who I think was on Cartoonist Kayfabe a couple of times, he's got a great booth there. Great comics. I go there. That's where I got my it's right over there, but my Taboo issue number 1. I got that from Jason at Heroes Con, right? And I'm like, "You got Tyrant?" And he goes, "No, bro." It's like, not at all, man. And like, I've never been able to get it. So I've been so excited for this. But like, the work that Jim and Ed, and we've been now just a week post 2 years of Ed no longer being with us. And I've met those guys multiple times, but only in the obsessive fan at Heroes Con kind of way. But like, Ed and Jim were always super cool with me. They were awesome, and their work reminded me of shit I forgot about, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remembered Mike Mignola and Mike Allred throughout my entire life. Even and there was a period of like 2 years, you know, when I was like my first serious relationship, comics kind of fell by the wayside. I'm talking about like 2006 to 2007.
That's why you were able to have that first serious relationship.
Exactly, right? But like watching their show, it was fun to be like, "Oh man, this was what it was like when we saw Rob Liefeld's work at the time, or when we saw Todd McFarlane's work at the time." But then when they were doing their like Tom Palmer's picks, Wizard magazine, all that shit, dude, that was the first time I remembered, oh my God, Daniel Clowes. I forgot how much I loved Daniel Clowes. What's he been up to? Shit, he did this book called Patience. What? And so like, it caught me up on some people. It caught me up on aspects of the industry that even I had let go of, right? And Jim and Ed, the work they did to bring so much classic, important comics to the modern comic audience, there's we've been 2 years without kayfabe right now, and nobody's been able to do it. Nobody's been able to do it. Not even me, dude. I'm on YouTube. You know, like maybe I should. No, I can't because they had such a magic between the two of them with this industry. And then Tom, when he would, dude, I would like when I would like start a cartoonist kayfabe video and Tom Scioli was there, my fucking heart would just like melt, and I would just like be in an aura of gold all day long, dude. Like those dudes know how to talk about comics. And,
They do.
and they made comics, dude. Man, that's
They
just
they would come to Philly, and when I say they, at least one of the times it was Jim, Ed, and Tom together. And in the shop we had the retail space, and then we had a separate like 600 square foot space that we used as an art gallery and event space. And those guys would set up in there, and they'd be in town for 2, 3, 4 days, and they'd set up in there and they'd make comics. And that's what they did. They draw, they'd make comics. A lot of the other people hanging out would be drinking, smoking, carrying on, running around, whatever. And then obviously there's the business of running the store. But it was pretty wild times back then. And they would make comics is what they did. I always remember Tom having he was doing his G.I. Joe Transformers thing at that time for IDW, and we had a movie.
What a crazy ass book, by the way. That book is so insane. Oh my god, dude.
You'll love this. You'll love this. So the store is open, and store's open, customers coming in and out, and Tom is sitting in that gallery space, and we had a movie screen that wasn't as big as like a movie theater screen, but was way bigger than any TV anybody has. It was a movie screen, and we had a digital projector on the ceiling and all that shit, and we would do movie nights sometimes. But Tom asked me if he could use it to color the fucking G.I. Joe Transformers comic, and I was just like, I don't know what that means, Tom, but you can do whatever you want. And we set it up, and he set his laptop up, and he sat there and was coloring that series, some of it, on the movie screen, basically. So customers were walking in and out and seeing that. We had some good. Yeah. So Tom is he's a special creator. He does. He's a true comic book creator.
Just today he had work released today on the Godzilla Monster Piece Theater meets Romeo and Juliet. He had a backup story with Godzilla meeting Robin Hood, which was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
I believe it, man.
It was so cool, dude. What's crazy is, so having worked at a shop and ran a shop, me and you, you know what I'm talking about here. You have your customers, you're selling your books, you're selling whatever you can to try to make it. But then when somebody comes in and they mention names like Mike Mignola or Mike Allred or Stephen Bissette or who knows what else, like not just your typical, John Byrne and Chris Claremont, right? Those, like, are you like me? Does something spark up in you and you're like, oh my goodness, you just mentioned Daniel Clowes, you just mentioned Peter Bagg. I'm about to have a conversation with somebody who's really into comics.
Oh, it did. Yeah, I'd be lying if I said no. Yeah, I mean, if somebody wanted to, if somebody came in looking for Paul Pope book, or if somebody came in looking for Frank Miller or whatever, Farrell Dalrymple books. If somebody came in looking for stuff that at the time we had the shop that, I mean, I tried to treat it all. Those were good times, and it's part of why I had some years where I was sort of in the wilderness, and part of it was I couldn't get over the loss of the shop, and I felt so diminished, and I just, I almost fucking drank myself into the ground pretty close. But I think the first time I missed it so much, the overall experience of just like spreading the comics gospel, I would call it. But I'll be honest, and I've said this a couple times to people, the first time that feeling, I mean, I don't think about it at this point, and I haven't for several years. It's sort of in the past. Finally, it took me a few years to get to that, but the thing that really made me like kind of laugh in a rueful way, I feel terrible for the people who are, the retailers, but when the whole diamond shit happened, I did like vividly think to myself, fuck man, it's the first time that I'm okay not having the store, Right. So I say that, with no, that's no malice. I feel terrible towards, everybody who's caught up in it, but it was the first time I was like, I wouldn't want, like, dealing with Diamond was bad enough, but I wouldn't want to deal with all the splinter factions of distributors, and I wouldn't want to have to deal with all that shit. I wasn't really in it to make money, and that's why we went out of business after 6 years, right? But
Yeah.
I was in it because I loved comics. I wanted to spread comics, and you know, um,
Well,
you
when
know,
the diamond collapse happened, I actually was one of the few active ordering retailers, right? Because a lot of retailers, maybe they don't do the orders. Some retailers never let go of that.
oh,
The
right,
guy who
right.
runs my shop, his name is Edward Walls, and he's run my shop. He started in 1995, right?
Wow.
In fact, when I first met Jim Rugg at Heroes Con, I mentioned I came from a shop. He goes, "What's your shop name? How long's it been around?" I said, "It's the Deep Comics and Games, Huntsville, Alabama. They started in 1995." And he looked at me and he goes, "What?" He goes, "You should have that plastered with confidence on your wall, like founded in 1995, the worst year of the comic book industry, and somehow you survived." And the owner of the shop is a very smart businessman, and he's a lover of comics. But at a certain point, he hit a level of responsibility, a level of engagement where he wasn't as plugged in maybe as he wanted to be, right? To
Okay.
what's going on in the current comic book industry.
Yeah.
And after a lot of resistance, right? He decided, let this young snot-nosed 30-something-year-old take over my ordering. I've already said he's the store manager. Why not allow him to take over some more? And ever since then, I've been doing more and more of it. But I was one of the few ordering retailers that was like, Diamond collapsing? Yeah, I don't mind multiple distributors. I love it. It keeps me engaged in my
I think
workday,
I don't think
right?
you're alone in that. Yeah, I think I don't get the sense that there's a ton of I might be in the minority of that opinion, and if I still had a shop and saw it in practice, I might agree 100% with you. It
Well,
was more just like
I'm part of some retailer groups, and there's a lot of people that still want it to be done like paper orders, 1995. And I'm just like, bruhs, come on, man.
yeah,
We can't do this way anymore. We don't need to be fearful as retailers. We don't need to be afraid of multiple distribution models. We don't need to be afraid of digital comics. We don't need to be afraid of things, because everything that makes comics, whether it's a big super hero tentpole movie or whether it's a small indie film that's slightly based on a comic like Ghost World, right?
yeah.
Those things happen too. For every Avengers, there's other things like Ghost World, right? There's a lot of opportunity out there in comics, and I don't know, man.
You have to embrace
I'm
it all, or you just or listen. The future doesn't care about your preferences. The future's coming, and it always will be, and you have to embrace it all, and it's easier said than done. I'm at a point in my life now where I feel like it's easier than maybe it would have been 10 years ago. I feel more connected now to what's going on right now, meaning like what's coming out every month from the publishers. I feel more connected to that now than I did maybe when I had the store, like because
Yeah.
I chose to engage with it. I actually was challenged to. I edited a bunch of books for Kurt Piers, and towards the beginning of it, we were getting along kind of like me and you. It was like very easy for me and Kurt to get along, but he broke my balls in a call. He's like, for someone who's supposed to be a great editor not to know about the shit that's coming out now, that's weird. And I was just like, you little motherfucker. And then I was like, but then I was like, you know what? I hung up the phone, and the next day I said, God damn, he was right. And I've just embraced it the last 6 months. I've been reading,
Yeah, you have to engage it. You have to I see so many I see so many retailers and so many people in the industry clinging, right? Nostalgia can be a tool or it could be like
What's
a
there to
refuge.
what's there to be nostalgic about? You got we all, the people watching, the people who see this recorded, me and you, Steve, Jim, everybody, like we all have to. I get the nostalgia thing. I mean, I've got you see on that top shelf there. I guess in some ways you could say that's all nostalgia, but I don't think of it as nostalgia. I like those things. Like I actively like that. If people see that Dark Knight
Well,
thing,
that's different than like what I'm talking about is the nostalgia of how I used to order comics in
no,
1993.
it's
You know what
easy.
I'm saying?
If they're listen, I'll say this: if they're in their 60s and up, I gotta I do understand. It's the world has changed. So you're right. You're 100% right, and that's what I was backing you up on that. You have to change with the times. It's like if you don't, you're just it's your own. You have to.
I
You'll have
think
to.
that's our job as a retailer, man. If anybody, whether you have a brick and mortar shop or whether you're publishing books or whether you're creating books, our job in this industry is to try to figure out how to make this industry known to the populace through what we have available right now, right?
Yeah, yeah. I it's so to Steve and Jim, and seeing Steve say it is truly heartening. And Steve and Jim, I mean, all three of us, me and Jim have had like private phone calls about this subject. So I knew how Jim felt about it, but it's coming out in the podcast, and seeing Steve say it truly like gives me a great feeling where I feel this way. I bet you're going to second this thought. Jim Rugg feels this way. Steve Bissette feels this way. And Steve's 71 years old. And he's literally part of the generation that helped make comics like the medium it is today. This is the greatest time ever in comics. And the second greatest time is pretty far behind it, whatever that time might be. If people want to say it's the mid 80s, I would be predisposed towards saying that. That would have been my own. I always think everybody's own personal golden age, if they grew up with comics, was probably when they were 10, 12 years old. You're getting a little bit smart enough to understand more complex shit, and maybe
Yeah.
you could enjoy a better comic than when you were 6 or 7. So that's usually the golden age, and we all hark back to that. It's one of the
That's why
reasons.
every young X-Men writer right now is hearkening back to Grant Morrison's run, for
Yes.
instance.
Oh, it's
Right?
very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting to me. For me being the age I am, and then like I said in particular, I work with Kurt Piers on a bunch of stuff, and Kurt's not quite 20 years younger, but almost. And the referential point of view, it's very interesting to see the difference in a generational thing. It's not a right or wrong thing. It took me a minute to get used to. And now I see it, and I actually really it's very interesting to me. And he employs it like a fucking champ. I mean, he's great with the skill of it. But it's a very interesting thing. The generational sort of
You're talking about Lost Fantasy, Chris? Is this who you're talking about?
oh
Right?
yeah, I'm space yeah, I'm sort of just
Word. Okay.
I'm
Cool.
free
Yeah.
associating here. I'm sorry, it's the coffee.
What book did you edit with him?
I edit Lost Fantasy. I edit Fireborn, which is coming out next week.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah, I edit those two, and
I
I'm
had
editing.
no idea, Chris. I'm so sorry.
No, look, we're here. To be honest, I'm here to talk about Tyrant.
No, I
So,
had no
but
idea
we're
though. I was
talking.
like,
But
what?
we're talking.
Did
But
you
we're
do You've
talking.
Been Canceled or Olympia? Like I love I love Kurt's
No,
work.
I only
Yeah.
no. Me and Kurt, we started working together towards the end of this past summer, and it's great. I really enjoy it. There's other books. I'm editing Galactic, and hopefully that'll. I think that Distillery has that scheduled to be a hardcover at the end of the year, so hopefully that all works out. And I'm not involved with some of his other stuff that he, has been announced. I know his Oni book looks like a ton of fun with all the dogs. I'm gonna Super Mondo Mega Mutts.
Dude,
So
his
I'm
Mad
on that.
Game book he just did 51. I loved that book.
That I'm not on. I guess the simple, yeah. I'm editing his image books, and I'm editing the Kickstarter, his first Kickstarter book called The Objectivist.
Bruh, super cool. Just so you know, Firstborn or Fireborn, issue number 1. I ordered to my Lost Fantasy numbers, and then everybody's like, I want a Fireborn number 1. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't think I've ordered enough for all of this demand. You're a little bit of a spec book on the horizon, man. So I think you're going to get some press next week, dude. No, I had no idea. Chris, I'm so sorry. Some kind of pop culture philosopher and comic book retailer I am. Holy shit.
Why would you be sorry, man? Why would you be sorry? No,
Because
no,
I should know the editors of these books, because that actually would let me know more about the books coming out than maybe just knowing the creatives, knowing some of the editors, man. No,
no,
dude, that's
it's a lot
awesome,
of
dude.
fun. It's a lot
Holy
of fun.
shit, dude.
Image is the mountaintop for genre, what I would call, creator-owned genre
Well,
comic.
you should get you and Kurt on here sometime, man. How about that? Like, what?
I would love,
I've
yeah,
never had him on the channel. I love his work.
oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah, I'm
I
sure
just
we
never know how to say his last name correctly. So I say
Piers,
it differently. Piers?
Piers,
See, somebody
Piers.
told me it was Perez. It was like
No.
French or something.
Well, you know what? I shouldn't say no. I shouldn't say no. That probably technically is correct because Kurt's got some he'll appreciate this. Me and Kurt are close, so he won't mind me spacing on it. Kurt's got some South American blood in him, let's just say that. So it might be, I forget it. He's, if he ever saw this, he'd laugh. I forget if it's Argentinian. It's South American blood. It could be that pronunciation, but it's definitely not Pyers. It's Piers is like, I guess, the common way of saying it.
Yeah,
But
dude.
no, it's a lot of fun. I never edited stuff. I did this tiny bit of work on an image series before, but not really. And this is the first time I'm really dealing with it. So I'm learning new stuff, and I don't know. Lighthouse might take my full attention at some point, but I'm still editing. Like, I've got this little whiteboard over here. If I have to hop up to use the bathroom at some point, I'll grab it just for kicks and show you. But yeah, I've still got, even with Tyrant going on, I've got like 15 or 14 different projects that I call like my freelance projects, and I would say Kurt's are chief among them. We have deadlines. Most of the other ones don't. Those image deadlines come fast and furious, man. Especially, God bless Kurt, the readers, when you buy those books, and you have the shop, you're getting like 40 pages of story. So it's almost, and God bless our artists, guys like Luca Casalanguida and guys like Alex Dioto, Maxi Dallo. All these guys chipped in on issues. Luca does the heavy lifting, but they're almost doing 2 books a month in a way, right? Because it's 40 pages of story most of the time, or close to it. So but yeah, he's got a killer one. I wish I could tell you about it. It'll get announced soon, and we're just working on the cover artist today, actually lining up the cover artists. And I think it'll be a bigger hit than Fireborn. And I'm not trying to be coy with that. I just think it's got way more mass appeal. So I'm sure, I think it'll get announced soon. It's really cool. It'll be an image series. It'll start in September, and that's been a lot of fun. Even with the Tyrant stuff really eating up my mind, I'm still enjoying. In fact, I get on the phone tomorrow with the artist of that one, so I'm sure we could come on, and you guys, we could talk that one up when the time comes.
Oh yeah, I would love to do that, man. That would be super fun. So like, you're doing this comic book work, and you're doing Lighthouse. You're a former retailer, and you were a publisher there, like working with that. Like, what are the origins of Lighthouse? Because it predates Tyrant, right?
No, Lighthouse exists because Tyrant.
Okay, word.
Now I say that, and people, it might sound like very fly by night, and I don't, there's a full, and I'm sure by the time we're done talking, we'll touch on some of the upcoming projects, the little bit that it makes sense to do now. But like, no, there's a full Lighthouse plan for the next couple years into 20, well into 2028. So it's not, but that happened relatively quickly, to be honest. My work, my work in the last few years, it was trying to think how to say this. Things can get chaotic, and it doesn't matter. Like, I Lighthouse was born of a chaos that came, just with the turbulence in the market. I guess what I'm doing is stumbling over saying that I had a partnership where I was going to be partnered with one of the big publishers. Maybe that big publisher had recently been in the news for making moves that seems to upset the most of the creator community. But I had a partnership in mind with what Lighthouse became. It was really not the intention of doing it myself full on the way we are until honestly, about even not even a year ago, to be honest. But Lighthouse is really born, like I was saying earlier. I forget if we were in our pre-chat or if we were already live, but I've edited most of it hasn't come out yet, and the highlights of it would be stuff like the two Golem of Venice Beach books and the Armored series and some art books and stuff like that. But and obviously the work with Kurt right now that comes out every month. But I've edited. I haven't counted it, but it's got to be a ton of pages, and I've worked on so much the last few years and for other people. And then in the crowdfunding realm, Robbie, since 2022, I think I've been a part of. And when I say been a part of, I'm the one who either generated the project or put the project together, however you want to say it. And I just wasn't the publisher, or it wasn't, it wasn't my book. But I've been a part of, in that sense, in a very real sense, something like 800,000 or 900,000 in crowdfunding. So when you go through that at that level, when you have these six-figure campaigns, certainly when you get, knock on wood, and I feel very humbled and blessed with it. When you get past 200,000 and you're at the sort of scale, you see the good and bad of it. And then I've had, I've been involved with ones that didn't make 10 grand, and that people had high hopes for, maybe not six-figure hopes, but hopes that were beyond, 7, 8, 9,000. So I've seen the good and bad of it, and I've worked a ton at it. There's no days off. I don't take vacations. I mean, life is easy, man. I sit here and make comic books and, try to make sure my wife stays relatively happy, right? And like, life's easy, so I'm not trying to act like I'm in the salt mines, but I don't know anyone else in my role who has 15 projects going. Like, I do it 7 days a week. The people who work with me know how quick I get back to them on things, and it doesn't, so like when you're putting that much into it, um, it just became sort of apparent with some of the other business dealings I had at the time that I had to do it myself 100%. And the truth of it is, I got the Lighthouse logo like towards the end of last year, and that's when it was real. Phil Ballsman, a great letterer and designer, did the Lighthouse logo, and I reached out and I said to myself, once I get this logo, that's it, right? And it took, the name came from, the name is to be honest, I just thought we could get a cool logo out of it, but then it grows. Dean Haspiel said to me, oh, it has meaning for you. And it probably does. I had some
It does. A lighthouse is the signal. It's safe this way. Come this way. It's safe. Comics are safe.
I didn't, I'd totally be full of shit if I said that was in my mind when I picked it. I was texting with an old friend of mine, to be honest.
Well, the other side, Chris, is like the movie The Lighthouse. Like, come work at the Lighthouse, go fucking insane, and dive into a Lovecraftian nightmare.
Yeah. I just started watching that the other day during the campaign. Inevitably hits days that are slow, right? It's just the nature of this beast. And no matter if you know that's coming or not, it can fuck with you psychologically. It's hard to go from the rocket ship of $150,000 in one day and $200,000 in two or 3 days, whatever. And then, drips and drabs. And believe me, when I say that, I don't want anybody to see that and think that every sale, certainly at this point, especially, every sale feels like truly a blessing. So when I say drips and drabs, I just don't want that to come across wrong. But what I'm saying is it's certainly a psychological roller coaster. Even if you know it's coming, even if you understand it intellectually, it's almost impossible not to go from feeling like the king of the world to maybe not feeling as great, because you're like, fuck, the 2 sales all day. Nobody likes this book. It's not like, what's going on? Are we done? So in the middle of that, I decided it would be a great idea to put that Lighthouse movie on. I said, this will lift my spirits. I said, this will lift my spirits. So I got as far as like Willem Dafoe, who I love, great actor, but I got as far as him like chewing out Robert Pattinson, and I didn't get too far. It looked good, I like that director. I love that movie, The Witch. That would be one of my top movies of the 21st.
Yeah, The Witch, The Northman, and Nosferatu. Robert Eggers.
I haven't seen the Nosferatu. The Northman was pretty good. Yeah.
Northman's great, dude. Nosferatu is great, dude. The Lighthouse is great, man. Let me tell you something. After this is all over and you're drinking fucking virgin pina coladas out there on the beach
That's what it
right?
is, man. Virgin
And
pina coladas.
yeah, virgin pina coladas on the beach with some strawberry swirl in there, with the umbrella, with the pineapple slice. You're just enjoying the breeze, all that shit. You go back to the hotel room, watch the lighthouse, indulge yourself, fall into the madness, fall into that movie, and then watch our show we did last year on PCP Movie Night about the Lighthouse. One of my favorite movies, Five You Digs, perfect score for me, man. Like, such a great movie. But I get why in a chaotic moment, in a high stress moment of your life, you may not want to watch this movie.
Oh, I was laughing at myself. I said, "What's wrong with you?" I knew it. I was like, "What are you doing?" You know. But
Do you
no,
typically like off kilter type movies, man? Or are you like I just like Jaws and Star Wars? Or are you like I love Argento and I love all kinds of crazy Fulci and all kinds of weird shit?
I like anything that you know. Am I a huge in this in the way you are? I think, or the way Steve Bissette is, or you know, I'm good friends with Paul Pope, and he knows a lot about foreign films and stuff. I'm not really of that vein, but I you know, I've watched as many movies as anybody probably, and you know, I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch. It's going to sound crazy. I didn't watch a lot of movies for like 20 years because I drank a lot, man. And I know that sounds nuts, but like when you drink the way I did, you're the movie. And I don't know how else to say it. Like I was like I in my you know, like you drink like that day in, day out, you're the movie, you know. I didn't watch a lot of movies. I guess I would watch old shit, like, you know, and then if I was with my friends or at the store, you know, stuff like that. So I didn't see a ton of, you know, stuff. And I don't find the sensibility in most of the popular stuff I see today doesn't really appeal to me. You know, I don't want to say the wrong things here, but I watched one battle after another. I watched Sinners. You know, I think they're good movies, but you know, I don't think they. You know, I watched Del Toro's Frankenstein, and there's just a lot of things with the aesthetic. I think, and even though as different as those three movies are, that with the modern thing I'm seeing from movie makers. Even something like Oppenheimer, to be honest, all good movies, but they just, you know, there's something about it that's, you know, those ones I'm mentioning, I think Sinners was the most interesting to me because of it was just beautiful to look at. I don't think it's a great movie in the way it's talked about, but damn, just one of the best looking movies ever.
So I
So,
haven't seen One Battle After Another. I haven't seen Sinners yet. Still, right? I was just talking
oh,
with
I'm
James
glad I
III
didn't
about that
say it. I'm
earlier.
sure you've heard it's such a big movie. I'm guessing you know the story, but I'm glad I didn't say anything about it. But
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
the when you do watch it, Robbie, I'm guessing you have a nice setup. Man, watch it in the dark. Sinners is hands down one of the prettiest, best film things you will see. It's
Bro,
just
all I got to do is go, Alexa, movie night, and the
movie.
lights dim down and the
Uh,
fucking the TV goes to filmmaker mode and like all
uh,
that shit. Like, it's perfect, dude. I'm like
uh,
into it, man. I really am. I wish I had a bigger TV. I did research when I got my 4K TV, like for my space, the distance my couch is from my TV. This is how far it. But I'm like, you know what? I should have pushed it a little bit further. Maybe I want another TV, and that could be my bedroom TV because I
uh,
fall asleep every night listening to movie commentaries, bro. Unless I'm with my girl, and then we
okay.
just fall asleep listening to like dream pop and shit. We fall asleep listening to like Warpaint or Still Corners or Wolf Alice or some shit like that. But you've interested me. You've interested me here. First of all, Oppenheimer was my favorite fucking movie that year. Shut
Okay.
your fucking mouth. All right, there you go. Last year, I love Frankenstein. I haven't seen Sinners yet. Haven't seen, but I was just
Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is a good movie. So when I criticize it, I'm criticizing it because it should be able to withstand some scrutiny because it is a good movie, and
it could.
I
It,
do think it's, I don't think it's what other people seem to think, but it's certainly a good movie. The Del Toro Frankenstein, I just for me, and look, Del Toro seems like a great guy. He's certainly a champion of comics. I don't want to diminish this guy at all. It's not It's not my
He
place.
knows Mike Mignola. He's a
It's not
cool
my place.
guy.
It's not
I
my
heard he
place to
buys
do it.
drinks for everybody. Like he
Yeah,
picks up
it's
the tab.
not my aesthetic, and yeah, you know what a big part of it is too, and you know, and I'm just telling you this, if the audience gets surprised, I might disappear for 30 seconds. I believe my wife just came home, but we'll be good. We're good. Don't worry. I just have to talk to her for 30 seconds. Audience, I know it's live. This is the perils of married life. Give me 1 second and we'll get back here. Sorry about
Yeah,
that,
man,
Rob.
that's fine. Defending his stance against Del Toro's Frankenstein. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm going to prepare my argument. I'll be right back.
You got to be kidding me, man. I love that movie. I think the practical effects are amazing. The knowledge of what people know about what Frankenstein is and still subverting that using the original material to me is fascinating. But I have something very cool I want to chat to Chris about as soon as he pops back up. What's up, everybody? Hope you're still alive here on a Wednesday evening. I know everybody's been in the comic shop. Some people are going to be watching this on the replay. If you're watching on the replay, I want to hear everything you have to say about why Frankenstein is better than Chris thinks it is.
Let me know, folks. I just, you know, part of it too, though, and this is just silly, you know, silly personal bias stuff. I'm not a big fan of, is his name Oscar Isaac?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Dude, that's one of my biggest crushes in Hollywood right now. I think Oscar Isaac is the sexiest dude I've
he's a
ever
good-looking
seen,
guy.
dude.
Yeah, he's a good-looking guy. I'd love to have his hair, great hair, you know, but even, you know, even as Poe Dameron or whatever, he was okay in the first movie. I didn't need to see him.
Have you watched Ex Machina?
I haven't, no.
All right, you should. I'm not saying that your thoughts are invalid. I'm not saying that at all. You should watch
A friend of
Ex
mine,
Machina.
someone who I love and revere, and I go back to high school with, produced, you know, his HBO series, and I didn't like that. So,
Oh shit. Okay. Are you a Coen Brothers fan?
I respect them. I'm not like a devotee of them, but they're certainly great filmmakers. Yeah,
Okay. So have you ever seen the movie Inside Llewyn Davis?
I haven't. I know it's like a riff on Bob Dylan, and
You know, and it's got Oscar Isaac in it, right? You know,
yeah,
so
that's why I couldn't do it, because look, Bob Dylan for me is the you know, he's the fountain, you know, he's Bob Dylan is the top.
but it's not just a riff on Bob Dylan. It's a riff on the scene Bob Dylan came from, right? More so.
I can't have Oscar Isaac like that. It just wouldn't work for me. I know. You're
Chris,
looking.
I'm telling you, man, do me a fucking favor. I've done you some favors, right? Would you say
Yes,
so?
sir. Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes.
do me a fucking favor. Watch Ex Machina and then watch Inside Llewyn Davis, and then we can have a talk about Oscar Isaac.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. I give you my word. I'm gonna watch. I'll watch the Ex Machina one. I'll watch that this week, and then I'll message you about it. We'll go from there. I'll open myself
Well,
to
he
it.
plays an asshole in that one. Actually, he plays an asshole in the other one too. So you know what? You know, you know what? I like characters that are assholes because I feel like they're more relatable. Because I'm a little bit of an asshole, Chris.
No, look, he's no, you're not. You have no malice in you. That's how we judge.
Oh Jesus. Anyway, those are really good movies. You should join us for a movie night sometime. Sorry to put you on the spot. You don't have to confirm or deny tonight, but like maybe someday in the future we can get you on a PCP movie night. It will not be an Oscar Isaac film. I'll tell you that. So you're not. Are you a super? You're not really a big film guy. Is that what you're saying?
You know, I think the things that like have meant the most to me in terms of movies and stuff, in terms of like film, since the you know, since the old days, so to speak, like not the stuff I grew up with or was formative. I think it's been more TV show stuff, to be honest, specifically like just a few series, things that really, things that like have become part of my common speech, and sometimes I don't even realize it, or stuff like that. So in that sense, things like some of them are obvious, some maybe less so, but things like The Sopranos, things like Mad Men, things in particular Deadwood.
Oh,
Um,
Deadwood is one of the greatest of all time.
yeah, I one of the great moments, and there's a whole twisted story to it, thanks to one of my dear friends. But I met David Milch in Philly, and he was
No, you didn't, man.
yeah, he was all set to come to the comic shop, and it's a long story. It didn't happen, but yeah, I met Milch one night,
Did he
and
call you a cocksucker?
no, he was no, my friend,
If I was him, I would call everybody that, dude.
my old friend who's got nothing to do with comics, but he was there, and it was like an event on the UPenn campus, the Kelly Writers House, which is like pretty prestigious, Ivy League type thing for writers. And we had actually I had given a talk there, and I still don't even remember how the hell that happened, but I had given a talk there, and then Locust Moon, me and my two partners had given a talk there. And so we were sort of in that circuit for a minute, and Milch was coming to town to do it. And I think it was like told to us that, oh, Milch loves your store, but he still thinks it's the video store it used to be. And once I knew that, I was like, I gotta talk to him like personally and just try to get him to come to the store. And we had this big Deadwood poster that the old video store that had been there before us had left there. And I wanted to get him to sign it, and just wanted to spend more time with him. But yeah, my old buddy, God bless him, Doug, Doug Huntley, if he's out there, he might watch this. He's a loyal friend, but he decided he was going to go up to Milch. We were all drinkers at the time and all kind of crazy, and we were too old for it because we weren't like super young. But he decided he was going to go up to Milch and offer him a drink, knowing Milch was like very much a recovering heroin addict and alcoholic, and very kind of militantly so. He just did it because he was buzzed and thought it was a cute moment, thought he was being a smartass, and
Yeah.
and Milch was like, "No, thanks, no, whatever." And then my friend, thinking he was being a bigger smartass, decided he was gonna like hand him a lollipop and said, "Well, you want this?" And Milch took the lollipop, looked right at him, put it in the pocket on his chest pocket, and said, "No, I think you need it more than me." Needless to say, the next morning, I was at my store at the agreed upon 8:30 a.m. to have breakfast with David Milch and for him to come sign the poster. Needless to say, he did not show up for that.
Oh. Dude, Deadwood's an amazing show. You mentioned Sopranos.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mad Men. I've never seen Mad Men. I just watched Breaking Bad for the first time last year.
Okay.
And I was like, holy shit, everybody was right about this show. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV. That's a commitment, right? A movie is an evening, but a show is a commitment. And like, I've kind of fallen out of that because I have a commitment to reading, I don't know, 40 fucking comics every single week. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
Yeah,
I watched a new one. Sorry to talk over you. I watched a new one the other night though, because my wife was stressed out and she wanted to watch something, and we watched The Substance. And geez, man, I mean,
bro, I just watched that movie like a couple of weeks ago for the first time for a show. That movie is wild and awesome and everything I love, and way more sexy than I thought it would be. Were you getting hot? Were you like?
Oh, it was definitely sexy. And look, I agree with you. It's very stylish. The beginning of it shot really interestingly. But man, that ending, man, like the last half hour, I didn't know what like, honest to God, like I had to check and see what I was smoking. Like it was just fucking, it was just beyond the pale. It was like, what is going on? But in terms of sexy though, I know I said to my wife, I said, is the point of the movie the young girl's ass? Like, I guess that's the point of this movie.
Dude, like at first you're sitting here like I feel like I thought everybody said this movie's very heady, very deep, very heavy, you know, like
it felt that way at first. It felt like a really, I thought it was good. Like I didn't like, by the end of it I thought it was pretty fucking stupid, but it started off, it was really good for like the first half
I think
hour.
that movie's genius because it starts off like this is
You don't want me at the movie night, man. I'm gonna be I'll ruin things.
Well, we're gonna pick the right movie for you, Chris, okay? We've never talked about Goonies. I dare you to say anything bad about the Goonies, okay?
No, Goonies is classic, yeah.
Yeah, see, there you go. And I even got the edition that comes with the fucking board game, dude. Like, and I was like, I've never even really fully open this up. We got to play this board game if we ever do the Goonies, y'all. Like, we got to do it, man. We'll even like stream everybody in and be like, roll your die. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be funny. It's like Candyland, but with Goonies is what the board looks like. But that being said, dude, the substance, it starts off like your typical A24. Oh, we're so pretentious, we're elevated, we're going to like really make a statement. And then that movie slowly goes into like really like pervy kind of territory where you're like, is this movie just about her ass? But then you get to the other part of the movie where you're like, oh, no. This movie's setting all that up so that we understand this concept of aging and why somebody would want to hold on to the limelight. And then the movie goes fucking bonkers, bruh. And it just becomes like David Yuzma society kind of like chaotic shit. It just becomes this random thing. And I don't know, by the end of it, I think the movie's rather profound. In my opinion.
See, I mean, you in the Academy, so I'm in the minority here, you know?
Well, that's what, to me, what's so profound about the movie is that this is a movie that the Academy thought was cool to talk about. And I'm like, they always hate horror movies, dude. They hate weird shit like this. Where's David Cronenberg and David Lynch in the Academy Awards? You know what I'm saying? And the substance lives and breathes on the backs of Lynch and Cronenberg, in my opinion.
It certainly does, and I say this with all frivolity, you know, no harm intended. It's all, everybody enjoys what they enjoy. The second half of that movie, buddy, is like, you're right, Cronenberg, you're right, Cronenberg via Corman. and all due respect to Roger Corman, because me and Steve and Jim were talking about him the other day, and you know, I got respect for Roger Corman, so I know I'm using him as a punchline, but geez Louise, man, I mean, that second half of the movie, man, I hear you. They were making their point. They made their point so that the blind could see and the lame would walk it. Trust me, because you couldn't hit the hammer any harder on the nail, right? Like, oh my God, it drove me crazy. But that's the beauty of this shit, that we all, there's somebody out there, like, I'm sorry, I'm seeing myself in the thing, and like the Dark, there's somebody out there who thinks the Dark Knight Returns sucks. You know what I mean? That's part of the beauty of all this. There's people who think Lost Fantasy sucks. I see their shitty comments on Instagram, you know, there's people who probably think Tyrant is no big deal. I mean, that's you just have to, you know, there's the beauty of all of that. But at the end of the day, all these people we're talking about, obviously Oscar Isaac is a good actor. It's just not doesn't click for me. Obviously, these are all good movies. You know, I mean, it's hard as shit to make a comic book. I say this and I mean this, and it sounds like a play on words, but if you know what you're doing and you have some experience, and at this point, you know, hopefully I should, it's easy to make good comics. It's pretty easy, to be honest, to make good comics. It's really hard to make great comics. So that said, if it's really hard to make a great comic, I can only imagine it's 500 fucking thousand times harder to make a great movie, just for the sheer number of people involved. If nothing
way
else.
More cooks in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, just that alone. Because the more you do it in comics, the harder it gets. I mean, I go out of my way. My work can vary when I'm doing the editorial work. So my work can very much vary. And I'm there to serve the project and the person who's hiring me. But on the projects where I am in control of choosing and hiring the team, which outside of my work with Kurt, those are the projects for the most part that I do and I'm interested in doing. I don't want to work with I want to work with an artist who inks and colors themselves. Yeah. And I work with the same letterer every project. When I'm in control of choosing, I work with the same letterer, Ferran Delgado, every single project. Luckily, he's versatile enough to make that work, right? But it's also a factor of I don't want to deal with to riff on The Sopranos, I don't want to go into the unknown not knowing. So if I want to know, I want to know what to expect. And if I have to deal with an anchor, which is really never comes up, and that's almost a sad thing, and we could do a whole episode on that. But like if I had to deal with an anchor or colorists or all that kind of stuff, it's just one more part of the production that isn't necessarily, it just makes it's another set of hands, it's another set of scheduling, it's another set of personalities, all that stuff.
One of the things I love about comics, and I love film, obviously, right? But film involves a lot of people, like we said. But one of the things I love about comics, and Jim Rugg actually helped articulate this for me on the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel, was a comic book can be one person to the audience.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, man. That really, really is. Like when you get a lot of people involved, whether it's like technical crew or a corporation, some studio, like things get in the way. But when one person's making a comic book to you, like you're Stan Sakai, Stan Sakai, there's nothing between me and him when I read Usagi Yojimbo. There's nothing between us. And that's something very special about comics. That being said, Chris, I think me and you are going to be friends for a while. I hope so. And I think one of the ways we could do this is imagine if we did a bi-monthly show every 2 months. Chris and Robbie go to the movies and I like send you a classic bonkers wild ass fucking movie and we just honestly chat about it. Wouldn't that be fun, dude?
I'm in, Robbie. I'm in.
That being said, do you mind if I ask you something extremely personal?
Fire away.
Okay. You keep mentioning the time that you spent, really your whole focus was maybe on having a good time, drinking, shit like that. What changed that for you?
Yeah. I don't want to give a trite answer, so I'll just answer honestly. And you get to a point where you just have to decide if this is who you're going to be. And I got to a point, and for me, it took a very long time. I was 46, so that's a long time. And I had given up any, I hadn't even thought about trying to change things since my early 30s. So it was just, I got to a point, there wasn't really, I could add details to it that would maybe turn it into some sort of, hero's journey type shit or whatever you want to call it. And there were some markers. I had a friend who wind up, dying in his apartment from a drug overdose, and I looked back on how I had handled that friendship, and I had a lot of regrets that I hadn't been a better friend to the guy. He had been part of Locust Moon, and was a guy who had a trust fund and a heroin addiction, and they don't really go hand in hand. And so he wound up dying about 6 months before I stopped drinking. He wasn't the reason I stopped drinking, but he was in my head a lot. And when he died, I took the drinking to a whole new level because I felt conflicted, very much so, over my relationship with him. And you get older, and it's hard on you physically. I've had my health is, I'm pretty beat up physically, unfortunately. Like I feel great and but physically I've had my problems from it, and I'm dealing with them every day. And you just got to get to a point. I was lucky in Philly, and I still am, but I got to know Tex Cobb in Philly, and as a movie buff, I don't know if that means anything to you, but Tex fought for the heavyweight championship of the world. He fought Larry Holmes, and he's the bike rider in Raising Arizona. He's in a lot of stuff, and when I met Tex, he had stopped drinking, and I always remember him using the line, because I didn't know he'd stopped drinking, and I invited him to go out for drinks, and he said, "Oh, thanks, white boy." Tex called everybody white boy. It didn't matter if you were black, and that could be interesting in Philly. And but he said, "Oh, thanks, white boy, but I'm all filled up." And at the time, it just sounded like a clever line, and it was. And that's kind of, but I understand it. Luckily I came to understand what he meant by it in my late 40s, I guess I would say, or 5, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Um, yeah, man, I just, I didn't want to, you only live once, and I didn't want to, I was on the verge of pissing it all away. And, I didn't want to, there was something still inside me where I didn't want to do that. So yeah, 1 month I just stopped and tried to keep it going. And it's no coincidence. I joke sometimes, and thank God I'm able to, but I joke sometimes and say, yeah, can you imagine that I'm more productive? you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, happy to answer stuff like that. If there's anybody out there who struggles with this shit, I got friends right now who, but it's one of those things where nobody can really, you just have to get to a point where you have to just be honest with yourself and say, is this what I want to be? If it is,
So,
it's you.
let me ask you a question. Did you deal with feeling like, oh, I'm not going to be fun anymore? I'm not going to be cool. People aren't going to like me.
No,
Like, is
yeah,
that
yeah.
something you had to deal with at that time?
So I've been dealing, I'll keep it comic centric. I've been dealing with high level artists since I very first started. I look forward to talking with you about the book I'm writing. That'll be the third Lighthouse book, called Pretender. And this deals with a lot of this stuff. And we'll talk about that, and I'll tell you a lot of great stories. But I've been dealing, like, I got started in comics, when I was 28. And my way, like, I got started by working with Art Adams and Jay Lee and Ryan Otley before he was doing Invincible. And I was that was my, working with high level artists was sort of, just a thing, that was just sort of a way of doing it. But when when you're like, I don't want to say sabotaging yourself, because that sounds so dramatic and fucking trite. When you drink a lot, it's just a lot of chaos and things don't come to fruition. I'm sorry, I sort of spaced on what I was about to tell you there. I apologize.
That's okay, man.
I cleared the time with my wife, but I heard her in the hallway. So I cleared the
Forget about it. It will come back. But you were working with all these artists. Well, like, were you like tempted to cope with the anxiety of working with them for drinking or something like that? Or?
You brought me back. That's why you're a great host, man. You brought me back to the path. Yeah, I started to say, to keep it comic centric. You were saying, how did, like, 5 years ago when I stopped drinking, did I feel like I wouldn't be? I understand your question. Best way I could say it is this. So the reason I bring up that I got started dealing with, fairly Art Adams, right? Pretty high level people, James Jean, people like that. I got started doing that 28, 29. And so I'm used to talking to those type of people, is what I'm saying. Like, I'm used to dealing with star artists, let's say. It's just been my entire experience in comics. That's what it's been. So it's what I know, and I don't think of it as, I'm aware of it, and it's like a blessing, but I don't think of it as anything except like this is the normal shit or whatever. But that said, all these years, man, up until 5 years ago, anytime I had to get on the phone with someone, I had to drink like half a fifth just to feel like I was going to be cool and saying, like on and saying funny shit and making them think I was smart and the guy in charge and the guy with the vision. And I felt like if I didn't get through half a bottle before I fucking dialed, I wasn't going to be myself. And that was a hell, man. I mean, and I lived in that hell for, fucking 28 to 46. And here's the moral of the story is this. I get on the phone now with, anybody, and at the drop of a hat, and, you know, it's the conversations flow like honey, you know what I mean? And I never would have been, I talked to, I was on the phone, with heroes of mine where, we're just talking like me and you are. And in the past, I would have had to fucking drink a bottle just to make that call. So, yeah, I guess to answer your question directly, when I did stop drinking, it wasn't that I worried about, like, oh, am I going to be able to, like, connect with the creators, or am I going to be creative still? I wasn't worried about that. I had those thoughts and read about, other artists and stuff enough that I wasn't worried about that. But the truth of it is, you don't know how to live, like, you have to sort of relearn how to live. That's kind of the truth of it, because when you sort of drink the way I did, that's your life. And it's so just normal things that normal people do or weren't normal to me necessarily, or part of
Yeah.
my life, but they, so yeah, I say it all the time. I'm not bashful of it. I truly, and I don't mean it in the church sense, not that there's anything, I don't, there's just no real prerogative against that. I just mean, when I say I feel born again, I truly feel born again, and I'm trying to use it the most I can to make the books and do the work that I feel like I wasted the time. I wasted most of I won the fucking Eisners when I was 40 or 41, and then I wasted most of the time after that, so just trying to make up for that. Lighthouse feels, like that. Doing this now with Steve and Jim feels like that. The stuff I've got planned coming up afterwards feels like that. So just hell bent on it.
Dude, thank you so much for sharing those stories, because you don't know who's listening and who needs to hear that, right? So thank you. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's very, very important. And
Yeah.
thank you for being very honest. And
No,
I appreciate that. The way you were talking about it felt like I could approach that, because I've been kind of contemplating the idea of going sober, right? Because I feel like maybe it does slow me down, especially in my early 40s, man. I'm about to be 45. I'm mid 40s, y'all. But like, like I still think people go, Robbie, you're like in your 30s, right? Like, well, we'll see how much longer that lasts,
you
you
know,
know?
but I thought you were, honest to God, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love me. I thought you were like 28, man. I can't judge ages good. I thought you were 28. Yeah. I actually said to
He
Jim
really
Rowe,
means 32. He's padding that for YouTube. That's what he's doing, man.
no, no lie. I said to Jim Rugg one day on the phone when I was like setting up the podcast schedule. I actually had said to him at one point, I said, "Oh, you know what?" I said, I'm fucking gotten bad with judging ages. I said, I don't think these guys are as young as I thought they were, but they're young.
Nice. Well, Chris, thank you for being very honest, man, and discussing that portion of your life, because I think
Yeah.
that could be very inspiring to people, including myself. Because, like I said, I've been toying with it, but I like to drink a little bit when I do these streams, and it's almost gotten to the point where I'm like, and I've done plenty of streams without alcohol, but like I don't. It's gotten to the point where I'm like, wait, why am I always like, oh, I'm doing a stream, I should grab some beer? You know what I'm saying? Like it almost feels like, oh, dude, when that becomes the issue, maybe there's an issue. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know. I'm just trying to. Me and my girl, we're trying to think about how to be healthy, walk, live life, breathe the air. You know what I'm
And
saying? Smoke my
yes, sir.
weed, do my shrooms, enjoy my life.
Yes, sir.
Life's already fast enough. You know
It's
what I'm saying? So
it certainly is, man. You gotta, but yeah, don't beat yourself up over a couple beers. You'll know, man. I mean, you seem like you're pretty connected to yourself. You'll know. I don't think you got anything to worry about. I took a good look at you before we started this. I think you're okay.
hell yeah. All right. Well, I know that your wife has come home, so we can't linger around too long. So I do want to know though, what made you fall in love with comic books?
Yeah. Golly, I probably have one of the examples. Oh, I guess I move shit around, but I normally would have one of the like real early examples sitting here. I don't know where the hell I would have put it. Oh, perfect. This is a very early example. There were things before this. It would have been Spider-Man comics if we're being technical, but this is yeah, it's Bill Sienkiewicz doing what was, some expert out there, God bless you. Somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, but I call it the first Marvel trade. I guess the Death of Captain Marvel thing, but that wasn't really a trade. That was a graphic novel. Uh,
Those are different. Those are
yeah,
different,
yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
this came out in '84, which was very much I was
First
9,
collected edition.
of the Dark Phoenix saga. It's
Yeah.
Sienkiewicz, and when you see Sienkiewicz when you're 9 years old and you see the characters, and so this thing's burned in my brain. I think burn, peak burn, and yeah. So this was a huge one. I read this. This was a book where I always remember this. I had to sleep at my uncle's or something, and I always remember I brought this with me wherever I went. And it was at my uncle's reading it one night, where I finally realized because of the indicias, it was the first time I realized that the stories went on month to month and it was all one story. Because before that, I had only seen random comics, really, right? So that was a fascinating thing. And over the years, like I've worked with Sienkiewicz multiple times, and he actually just gave me a quote for something that not mine to talk about just yet, for an art book that I'm going to produce for a different publisher. But yeah, Sienkiewicz was definitely at the heart of it. Frank Miller would be
Frank Miller. I would say he's like, I mean, sometimes I forget that Jim Steranko's still around and they fucking crank his ass up every fucking week for a con. But
yeah,
like Frank Miller, him and Klaus are like him and Klaus, Walt and Wheezy, they're
yeah.
like living legends. You know, we've lost so many people, right? In
Miller
this industry.
Miller's fallen out of favor with the glitterati, and that's fine. Shit, like whatever. They don't really matter. Miller's the I get passionate about Miller.
Me, Miller's
Miller's
the greatest, dude. Miller is only second to Kirby, in my opinion, as far as American comics go, man.
Yeah, I mean, God, you're putting me in blasphemous territory here. Someone will come burn my house down if I answer this honestly. No. I mean, what I'd say about Miller is he is arguably, and they're fun arguments to have. He's arguably the greatest writer artist, certainly in genre comics history. If you want to start talking about people like Chris Ware, Dan Clowes, Anders Nilsson, who's somebody who's a little, I mean, Clowes and Ware are both still working, but Nilsson's a little bit younger than them. There's lots of great
Will
creatives.
Eisner, we could throw in that, right?
Sure, and he would have the advantage over Miller.
And I think Miller's directly inspired.
Well, that's
him.
what I'm saying. He would have, yeah. And if we were playing,
and also, who did Lone Wolf and Cub? Because that directly inspired Miller's work.
Yeah, it did. That gets blown up, I think. Yeah, because Eki Kojima.
Why? Because of Ronin?
Well, I think Ronin is. Yeah, Ronin's probably my favorite. If I had to choose one comic, it'd probably be Ronin. There's other books I really love, but Ronin.
Are you saying Ronin would be your favorite Miller book if you had to pick one?
It would be really hard. I think this about Ronin, and you just can't say this about most or any other books. And I'm sure there's one or two somebody could throw at me, and I'd love to hear it. But you might have one or two. Love to hear them. But Ronin started coming out in 1983. If it came out today, this Wednesday, New Comic Book Day, it would still be the most badass book that came out that week. It would still be the most forward-thinking book that came out that week. It would be the book with the wildest cartooning that came out that week. It would be the book with the best writing that came out that week.
Yeah,
I
agree. Ronin is my favorite Miller work.
It's almost 45 years old.
Yeah.
And in that book, you're particularly correct. In that book, where he synthesized what had been his prior influences, people like Eisner and Miller's greatest influence really is Bernie Krigstein. And I love Miller so much that I almost wish it was still more of a secret or something, because once you understand that Bernie Krigstein is Miller's greatest influence, and that Miller's adopting and then advancing Krigstein's, at the time, revolutionary techniques for creating time on the page by showing a single action broken into panels, Miller taking that and advancing it, not just applying it in static shots or not just applying it in a simple motion. When he took it and advanced it and he made it his own, that's probably, to me, when I look at Miller over the years, that's the biggest one. But no, Kojima, and it's very famously known that Kojima and Mobius were new to him in the early 80s, and he
like blended the two, right? East
very
and
much
West.
So. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons Ronin stands out. Certainly one of the reasons Ronin stands out. But no, Miller to me is holy ground. It's very sad to me when I'm on fucking Facebook or whatever, and there's these jerk offs who are just like, oh, this cover, oh, it's like, first of all, he's 69 years old. Second of all, the work he gave to this medium is second to none, and nobody's body of work can be put above his. There might be equals, but there's nobody's body of work in the history of fucking comic books that is better than Frank Miller's. There are certainly equals, but there's nobody you're going to show me who's a better body of work. So to see the current generation just in large part snipe at the guy, or him being disinvited from the convention because Holy Terror was anti, you
Which,
know,
by the way, if you talk to Frank Miller about Holy Terror, he'll tell you how he feels about the book, and he kind of is. That's where it was at the time, and I'm kind of regretful for
look,
that.
we're in a
Right?
bad place of artists. You don't have to agree with everything. And look, Holy Terror, to me, there's some great cartooning in it. It's a forgettable book. It's certainly one of his worst works. But the fact that it is a work that has a viewpoint that's distasteful to certain people, if we get away from like, if that becomes the permanent state of things where you can't make a work that might offend somebody, like, we're in dark days there. So I'm not really defending Holy Terror on the grounds of it being a great comic book. It's not. It's fucking trifle, especially when you put it in the body of his work. It's, take all the Muslim stuff out and take out any of the political or bias type shit. It's not it's not one of his great works. Certainly, great cartooning in it. I could show you examples of shit that he does on the page no one else could do, even in a
Right.
book, even in a book like that. But
Yeah.
no, Miller, it's just weird to me. I see it a lot. You don't see it. People make their stupid jokes about Alan Moore being a curmudgeon, and he sort of has invited that himself. But
Yeah.
the disrespect, yeah, the disrespect that gets shown to Miller, and the fact that it's so common is just crazy to me. He's Frank Miller. People should have more respect. That's how I feel
Bruh.
about that one.
I knew we'd get along because I feel the exact same way, man. I really, really do, dude. Like, I thought Ronin book 2 was brilliant. And then when they did a whole issue that was Miller, I thought that
Yeah,
was like, I got the fucking Abrams hardcover and all that shit with the layouts and all that. Like, dude, Frank
I have.
Miller to me is a legend in this industry. Like, there's a reason why I have an entire book of him and Will Eisner talking to each other. It's because Will Eisner chose to talk to Frank Miller. There's a reason for that, y'all. We're talking about
I
Will Eisner, who people credit as the creator of the graphic novel. And
yeah.
we could argue that in its nuance, but dude, I agree with what you're saying. Art is meant to be reactionary
Yeah.
and introspective,
Let me
right?
throw Yeah, absolutely, and let me just throw this nugget out for your audience who if they're not familiar with the book you're referencing, the Eisner Miller book that was a transcription of them hanging out at Eisner's house in Florida and talking about comics. One of the great moments in that, in particular for the audience of your show, might get a kick out of and might make them more interested in checking the book out, which is definitely worth checking out, is at one point in the book, it takes place, they're hanging out in Florida in like 2002, let's say. It's a couple years before Eisner dies. And at one point they're talking about Image and Todd McFarlane in particular, and Eisner says to Miller, I just don't get it. They're talking about Spawn. He's just like, I just don't get it. And Miller, it's classic. And I love McFarlane. If I could swing the camera around, I've got Wizard #1 framed on my wall. I love McFarlane. But I call a spade a spade. Miller says to Eisner in the interview book, he says, Will, think of it like high school kids carving a swastika on their desk. That's the appeal.
Holy shit. Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
he was
yeah.
kind of right.
It's in there, yeah.
Kind of right, you know. But no, 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 no. But yeah, man, no, it's great. We could keep talking till I'm not. I told my wife we were doing this, and for the audience out there, if you're not married,
Yeah. I feel like Chris will be on the channel in the future. I think we have
absolutely.
plenty of conversations ahead of us, man.
You should join us. I'm gonna have to send the update. If you're not busy, it would be great to see your face. We're gonna do like we did this live Zoom event when we had one of our stretch goals. I think it was the first stretch goal for the campaign. We did a live Zoom event, and it was awesome. There were 160 of the backers in there, and it was great. And we did that. We're going to do a closing night one on the 16th. If you wanted to pop in, love to see your face. I would introduce you. Obviously, Steve, but I would, make sure I introduce you to the rest of the fellas. I'm going to try to have some surprise guests join us. But yeah, we wrap up the campaign on the 16th, and
What is that,
we're
next Thursday?
next Thursday. Yeah, it'll wrap up 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And if anybody, I'm going to say thank God to somebody who made that happen for me today. So he knows who he is, and thank you. But yeah, no, we had almost. I'll say I can't believe I'm even saying this shit live, but we're having fun. Where yeah, somehow with all the care, and man, a lot of care has been put into this campaign, and I'm glad that people seem to be responding to that. So that makes us feel great, makes me feel great. But for all the care we've put into this, and when I say we, it's just a couple people. It's not like it's a company, right? So like, but all the care that's put into this, and 2 days ago, I'm screenshotting the total to try to like get some data from like fucking program or whatever, and I've got to run the screenshot through the program. And as I'm doing it, I look and I go, and I almost fell out of this chair I'm sitting in because I saw April 6th. So this campaign ends April 16th, 8 a.m. And if you know anything about this shit, you don't want to end your Kickstarter in the morning at 8 a.m. So that
right.
was a nightmare scenario that got resolved today, thank God. But yeah,
You
hit
had to
the
get
wrong.
the late checkout. The extra late checkout is what you had to set up, right?
You know what's interesting? We're at the point in the campaign, and I hope this doesn't come across wrong. And it's to your credit that you're such a warm and convivial host that I'm at such ease that I'm sharing these thoughts with you. But we're at the point in the campaign where it's sort of inevitable that there's always going to be a few people who, if you gave them gold, they would say they wanted silver. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
we're just at that point in the campaign. There's almost 2,000 backers, which is blessing, and there's always going to be that. So it's a real treat for me, to be honest with you, to sit with you and do this right now, and do it in the middle of the day like this, and not be thinking of my fucking click results on my Instagram ads. Yeah, not
Well,
worrying about who's going to show up for the closing night party, or
well,
just
one of those backers is my
we
comic
really need.
shop. So we
Oh,
we did. We one of
oh,
the yeah, we were on the I put us on the retailer peer.
oh, you
So
got to.
like,
Well, message me afterwards, because I want to make sure that yeah, message me afterwards, and just the name of the shop, and I should know it off the top of my head. I'm a shitheel. I'm sorry, but
oh, it's okay. I don't expect anybody to know the name of my shop because I don't really go too public because there might be somebody on YouTube who didn't like my last thoughts on the last episode or last issue of Venom. I don't know
hey,
them. I don't want them to have direct access to me.
hey, I didn't know. I didn't. Yeah, no. Well, you've done a good job at it, because I didn't know until either your talk with Steve or like the day of the Steve thing. I maybe saw it somewhere. You mentioned you had a shop. Maybe I was watching one of your other videos, but I didn't know until right around the time you and Steve talked that you were, in the retail game too, and that just made me want to talk with you more, because we have a lot of shared commonalities in this field of comics. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, no,
we
we're
really
we're
do. So let me get this straight real quick, Chris. Are you asking me to be a part of your celebration finale
absolutely.
next Thursday? Okay.
I sure am.
Book it. Let me know when I can come in. How long I got? I'll like come in. I'll gush, glaze everybody, and I'll dip out, man. So there you go. Like I would love
Will
to do
you,
that, man.
if we get them printed out for you, can you hold up like glossy headshots of Jim and Steve?
Yes,
You're a trooper, buddy. You're a trooper.
absolutely.
Oh man,
Send
no,
them
that's
to
great.
me, and I'll be. They're here with me.
I
We're
love
we're
the.
we're
Oh no, I was just going to say I'm thrilled that the books will be in your shop, man. That's I haven't, look, campaigns
Well,
like
I
this.
told Steve that I was like, I want this book to be in my shop perennially. It's a perennial book, dude.
I, I
That's what
think
it
so.
is,
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I think it'll turn out to be an evergreen. The complete edition, the artist edition,
And
is what it
Steve
is.
told me that it was the kayfabe video that you mentioned that
Yeah,
that made him realize, oh fuck, it is a complete story as
yeah.
it is right now. Now, of course, Rich wants to take that and be like, maybe there's more on the horizon. Is there any grain of truth to that, Chris? Is Steve actually thinking, fuck, I might want to do another Tyrant issue?
I think that there's increasingly so, and that's not lip service or hype or whatever. Yeah, I think increasingly so. In fact, and I haven't sent the update out yet, so whatever. Maybe a few of the backers are watching this, so they could hear it here first. In the closing night's event on the 16th, when we do the live Zoom event for backers, and we're hoping to have some special guests also join us to help celebrate Steve and the closing of the campaign. Steve will be reading from a brand new Tyrant script. So I haven't even read the script. Yeah, Jim hasn't seen it or read it. I haven't seen it or read it. So it'll be new to me and Jim, put it that way. That's how new it is.
I think this has put a fire under Steve's ass, man.
You saw
Right?
my buddy Rich Johnson was a prince the other day with the Rich Johnson wrote a great article about um will the success of Tyrant spur Steve on and put him in a position? Steve's 71 too. Everybody has to realize that. I told him yesterday, I forget if it was a text or whatever. We did a podcast, me and him the other day, and I just said, man, you've been Herculean on this podcast part of things. When we finish today, Robbie, this will be the 24th podcast we've done in support of this project.
Yeah.
So
And one thing I wanted to say was congrats to you and Steve and Jim understanding the importance of doing this like promotional round. Because a lot of people don't realize the importance of that. There is no Wizard magazine right now. Comics the magazine is
this is better.
started.
This is right? God bless. Yeah, I hope those guys do great. So I wish them all the luck. And it seems like they got off to a great start. But this, when we say this, comics YouTube and doing the rounds, let me tell you, man. And I'm an old dog in a sense. So like they say, old dogs don't learn new tricks. Like I said at the beginning earlier, comics YouTube was unknown to me. And I'm like I said, I've known Jim 20 years, and I knew Jim did kayfabe, and I knew it was a big deal, but it just wasn't something. We all have our interests, and I wasn't watching shit about comics on YouTube. When I was on YouTube, I was watching music I wanted to see, or like whatever the fuck, right? The Wind in the Willows puppets, stuff like that. But it has been one of the real, like, we're having a really successful campaign. I mean, there's no, I'm not going to be like false humble about shit. Obviously, it's very successful. It's a runaway train in some sense where it's all consuming. That said, though, it's been a real joy for me. When the store was out of my life in 2016, I never thought I would experience a sense of community again in comics. I knew I would still talk to my artist friends, and I was pretty fucked up at the time, so I wasn't even thinking about making books. But I knew I would, talk to artists. But I just thought that sense of community was gone. And what I've experienced in this comics YouTube realm this last month, with the generosity of you and the other hosts who've helped us spread the word on this, it's been really, like I said, for someone, I'm 51, and to like get something that's so new to you and have it be such a positive thing. All I could say is, like, I'm looking forward to this being a sort of permanent part of my life now. The sense of community that hosts like you engender, and the ability that you create in the ecosphere for these things to grow. I am certain Tyrant would have been a successful Kickstarter one way or the other. That ad I was joking with you about, that's just a private message from me to Steve that I made, it says it 3 years ago. I said, Steve, I know beyond doubt this will be successful. So I know that, but I also know for a fact we would not be sitting at 250,000 or whatever the number is right now, 253 for whatever the exact number is. We would not be at $250,000 without you, without all the other hosts who have entertained us and opened their audiences up to us this past month. And I just truly look forward to getting deeper and deeper into it with the next projects. And I, in particular, selfishly, I look forward to when the third Lighthouse book, which will be called Pretender and is a book I'm writing. I really look forward to doing this and talking with you in particular and with some of the other folks about that. This has just been really, I wouldn't say I was dismissive of it before, but I won't lie, I did have thoughts sometimes where I was like, what the fuck is this? It's somebody sitting on their couch, like telling me it's somebody sitting on their couch telling me their opinions about comics. Like, what is this, right? And so that,
But then you realize how unhinged some of this shit can be, and people just start, like, creators just let shit out And you're like, bro, I don't think we're supposed to say this right now. Like,
No, there is
no.
that facet to it. No, there is that facet to it. But yeah, no, in a very genuine sense, it's the community. It's the, and it's varied, which I wasn't aware of. I won't lie, and I still probably use the wrong terminology for it. I don't know if it'll ever click in my head. To me, it's all podcasts. I know that's not what it is, but like when I say it's varied, you're sitting there going, "Yeah, Chris, good job, you figured it out." But no, like Steve and Jim did Ink Pulp, and that one was a
Yeah.
show where they drew live. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then like last night, Steve did one where it was like a comic book school. And then there's shows like this where I think of you as like, you to me are like one of the big reasons I was attracted to what you do and reached out to you the way I did was because you to me, and I mean this in the best sense, you're like an old school host. And that's very appealing. That's very appealing to me. I feel like this is like the fucking
I always said I wanted to be the Joe Rogan of comic books.
Well, we'll let you go on that one. We'll let that one slide.
Meaning, I just wanted to bring people on and let them
No,
talk.
no. Hey, no, man. I don't know. I'm so glad that you popped up into the into the whatever the hell I started to learn about this stuff through, just on YouTube
Yeah, that's cool.
But
No,
no,
I think back in the day with like Wizard or a print magazine, you would have had to had this set up months ago to get in print for the campaign duration. But here you can quickly put things together, and unlike Wizard, me and other people are able to bring these creators, these people to you in a live conversation. That's never been done before. Right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, we would have had a successful campaign if we were doing this from a lemonade stand, because of the work. That's not me being arrogant. That speaks to the work, right? To Steve's work and Jim's work and Jim's involvement and the love Jim has garnered throughout his career. But it's because of you and the other 20 something hosts who said, yes, come into our space, come into this place that we've worked so hard and probably very often with very little recompense to build. And we're going to invite you into it so that you can try to build your thing. There's a beauty in that I wasn't aware of until I started this. And now that I've started it, and I think I'm speaking for Steve too. I think Steve's a little burnt out on some of the hey, answer these questions and write this shit for me. But more podcasts he's asking me to do. We've done 24 of them. I think I'm out of options, right? But what I'm saying is I think it got in Steve's blood too. I think it's in my blood now. I'm super excited. Hey, Garf Wong. Sorry, Garf. Garf Wong 40. Oh, you just pledged. Thank you, pal. Thanks so much.
Yeah, that's Lorena. Yeah, she's great. That's awesome.
Oh, hi, Lorena. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to check out what you got when we get done this. I hope you pick something that's going to make you super happy. I think all the stuff is cool. So, oh, that's great. Thanks so much. But yeah, I'm super excited about the next book already, and it's hard. You got to kind of focus on one thing at a time, but I'm deep into working on the follow-up to this with that creator. And, there's a good chance he joins us for the closing event, and we won't name the project, but we might kind of give away a little bit of the plot, so to speak.
Very cool.
So I look forward to just coming and doing all this stuff again, and hopefully as the next couple of years go by, I can be in a position where I don't think I'm much of a draw, but I can bring some people who will, hopefully get the numbers up a little. And
Chris, you're a draw to me, because you're a homie now. You're a homie now, a PCP.
100%.
Your defense, you like me are what we would call today a Frank Miller apologist, and I'm there for that because
he doesn't need any apologists.
And that's why we're Frank Miller apologists, because he doesn't need them.
There's no. I mean, it's just the truth though. There's nobody right now.
Bro, I got his whole Daredevil work in the omnibus form and in the original paperback forms that made the DD Visionaries fucking logo or whatever the hell. Dude, I am knee deep.
That was a big inspiration. It's a subtle one, but that specific thing you just mentioned was me and Kurt Piers were on the phone, and that was a big inspiration for the Fireborn cover. The main Fireborn cover. There's a lot of them, but
Oh, word,
the
dude.
one with the character standing in the flames. It's a
Yes,
subtle thing. It's not like the pose is the
dude.
same, but
And even though I have that hardcover omnibus, I'll never get rid of those paperbacks because of those covers, man.
oh, I
Those were
love
original covers at the time, man. They were so good, dude. And
it.
this is like Dark Knight Strikes Again era, right?
It was it was actually those that you're talking about actually came out, and it's funny that I remember this shit, but that was 90. They were a little before. That was 96. I've got, and
Okay.
we'll save them for next time. But hopefully there will be a next time. I'd love to talk again, obviously, but I've got some personal Frank Miller stories, and part of the comic that I'm the third Lighthouse book, which will be called Pretender. Part of the comic is like Miller's on panel in scenes, and yeah, I look forward to talking with you about those. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
just yeah,
So
terrific.
after Tyrant, Pretender. That's the next book on the horizon for you.
There's one book in between, and I don't mean to be a huckster. I will just say that it is a project that is very much a worthy follow-up to Steve's Tyrant, the project that will follow Tyrant. It's very much a worthy successor to launching Lighthouse, and it's the perfect second project. It's a revered work. It will be similar in terms of the program, so to speak, meaning the campaign and what it offers. There'll be some similarities. And one of the cool things about it, and it's the only chestnut I'll throw out for now, is it will be the largest in terms of physical size artist edition ever produced. So it's going to be a challenge, and we're deep into it already, and it should garner attention. So I'll tell you what it is when we're done. But yeah,
I was about to be like, don't worry, I'll find out what it is afterwards, but I won't tell y'all.
Right now, I think, let me check real quick, because God, if I screw this up, I'll get disbarred. Hold on one second, because I'll get yelled at if I don't do this properly. Hold on, let me see something. So yeah, as we close,
yeah, where are we at right now? What are we talking about?
What the hell happened there? Don't worry, people. I am a high-powered Kickstarter runner who can't get the Kickstarter page to load. What's going on? That's actually frightening, because I'm not seeing the top of it. What the hell is going on? Now somebody out there will have to let me know where it's at. This is so weird.
Let me look it up, bro.
Oh, there it is. So, okay, we've got 8 days left, folks. We've got I'd be remiss. We've got 8 days to go, and we're going to have a big closing party. There'll be posts and updates going out about that on the 16th. There'll be a closing party on the 16th, and updates and social media posts made about that, probably tomorrow. And yeah, tomorrow we'll wake up and we're into the final week. So it's just been really, I've been lucky. You know, the Little Nemo book 10 years ago, when six-figure campaigns were much more rare on Kickstarter, the Little Nemo book did 155,000, I think, 10 years ago. I've experienced many six-figure campaigns that I worked on for other people in the last few years. But this has just been the experience of a lifetime. It's certainly the opening day of the campaign. I've been lucky to win a couple Eisners. I'm obligated to use one as a prop behind me. I'm lucky to work with, almost on a daily basis, the creators who thrilled me and continue to thrill me. All that said, the opening day of the Tyrant campaign was by far the single greatest professional experience of my life. And again, it's really thanks to people like you, buddy, people who let us spread the word, and then thanks to the audience out there who've embraced it the way they have. I mean, we're going to cross, knock on wood, I don't want to fuck things up, but we should cross 2,000 backers fairly easily. And when the cheapest thing they can buy is $50, because of the type of books they are and the production values, they have to be that expensive. That says a lot about the passion for this work that Steve created. Says a lot about Jim Rugg and really the love that he has built up over his career, both through kayfabe, which to people under 35, I think is maybe one of the greatest comic book assets out there.
I agree.
If you're under 35 and you want to learn about stuff in a way that will be very enjoyable, and learn from guys who really know what they're talking about. They're not just, it's great to you know there's you can have a critic who hasn't done something give you the best words you've ever heard on a work, but when you've got the guys who are doing it, like a little bit of an extra layer to that. That's one of the reasons it was so influential, is because both of these guys, Ed isn't with us anymore, and we could talk about that for a long time. But both of these guys were just really they're both terrific comic book makers. And man, I'm sorry to end on I don't want to end on a bad note, but I haven't done this in any of the podcasts, but with you're sort of opening me up to it. And I will say it really, it's a terrible thing that Ed Piskor isn't here to see this.
Yeah.
He would be thrilled with it. He is part of the reason it's happening. And he never would have known about this. Ed and I didn't really talk much. We had been friends and then had a falling out that was silly shit, to be honest. And yeah, it's just a real fucked up thing, and it's a shame. And I don't think I'm saying, I mean, it's already been determined, so I think it's okay to say, but the book will be dedicated to Ed. That's Steve's decision, and Steve.
Oh, dude, that's so cool to hear, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's really sad that he's not here to see this, and I've held off on really sharing a ton of feelings about stuff in these things, because, to be fair, the point is to be happy and promote the book and try to grow this thing. But right now, you might be the last. This is the last one that's booked, and you might be the last person I talk to with this. And plus, it's me and you talking, and like you said, you're my homie already. So yeah, it's a real fucked up thing that Ed isn't here to see this, and it's one of these things where, if anybody's watching still or watches this on the recording, life is not going to play nice with you, and you can't expect it to, and you just have to do your best to keep within yourself. Ed got outside of himself, and
Yeah, man. Dude.
sad that he's not here to see it. So 1 week to go, though.
Yeah, man. Dude, hearing that this is going to be dedicated to Ed that's so cool, man. I felt like I had a personal connection with the motherfucker, because I listened to him every goddamn day, right? Every day. It didn't matter what the hell they were talking about, dude. They helped me rediscover my love of Rob Liefeld. They helped me rediscover things like Tyrant and the work at Daniel Clowes. Like, I had forgotten legitimately, bro. Like, it was ridiculous, man. And nobody's ever going to match what I think Cartoonist Kayfabe is, which is the greatest YouTube channel about comic books ever. Nobody's ever going to match that, man.
Seems like a lot of people, but you know what? Let me tell you this, man. And Jim would appreciate if me saying this. He wouldn't take this anyway, except the way it's meant. It's your job. It's everyone else's job, if that's what you choose to do, to try to. It's your job to try to top it. It's your job to try to push it forward. And I think you're doing a great job of it. You in particular, I think you're doing a great job of it. But like I said, this shit was all new to me up until a few months ago, and it does seem your sentiment about kayfabe seems to be the prevailing sentiment, certainly among the younger people that I talk to. Like, to me, young meaning anybody under like 35 or whatever. It certainly carries a large weight. And yeah, I don't want to bring anybody down or bring myself or you down. And again, I wasn't close with Ed. It wasn't like I was close with Ed. I reached out to him in those days, and I have people. Everybody knows the story, and some of the people I'm close to were part of those. Obviously Jim, right? So yeah, it's a fucked up thing, and it's just a shame he's not here to see it. And my mom, I'll be happy here. My mom, God bless her, my mom's gone now. It'll be 10 years next year, but she always believed, always, with all her heart, God bless her. She would point up and she'd say, oh, they're all up there now. And she was talking about, her grandparents. In some world, let us all believe, just for a moment, that Ed's up there. He sees the success of it. He knows the books are going to be fucking beautiful because Jim Rugg's designing them. And, you know, in some world, it would be a nice thing if Ed's getting a smile out of it.
Yeah, I guarantee you he is. And his work is always out there. And damn, thank you, Chris, for bringing all this. Anyway, let's wrap this up.
Sell some Tyrants. Bring her back. Bring back
sell some Tyrants, man. No, this is what a great conversation, Chris. I think me and you had already been discussing things, just chatting on the internet, you know, which is new to you, right? You know, like what's this Facebook thing? Like to tap, you know, but like, you know, and I got the sense that you were my kind of comic book dude, right? And you are. And so, yeah, you're a homie, dude. Anything you ever need from me and PCP, by the way, PCP, breaking kayfabe, is just me for the most part. So, like, yeah, anything you ever need.
About what they call wet in Philly. I thought you changed the whole subject.
Yeah, no. Anyway, so
that's a whole other show, man. That's the late night.
That's another show. Anything you want from me, dude, just holler. Anything you got to promote, anytime you want to get on, dude, I'm not going to forget. Chris and Robbie go to the movies.
Chris and Robbie go to the movies. Wherein Robbie shows Chris a movie he hates, and Chris comments upon it.
Yeah, I'm going to show you the wildest shit, bro. Yeah, like, I'm not going to be like, tonight we're talking about the Maltese Falcon. No, I'm not going to be like that.
in my life, in every aspect of it, I usually try to be, I hope, a nice guy. I don't look to shit on people's enjoyments because, again, everybody likes what they like. With movies, I'm a little more honest, to the point where Steve, who loves all these dinosaurs, I said to Steve in the live event, I was like, here's 3 shitty movies Steve loves that we're giving away, right? So, like, at least you know I'm going to be honest with you about these movies. We'll have a lot of fun with it. And I'm going to see your face on Thursday. I'll send you right? I'll send you the closing night shit. And
yeah, I'll be there, man.
This was terrific, man. I hope we didn't go too long, and I hope my wife coming in didn't throw me off the pace too much. Sorry to get a little emotional, everybody, at the end there.
This was exactly the kind of conversations that we love to have, and the kind of conversation that I feel like I've needed to have on this conversation on this channel for a while. Right?
Pull some clips. Use that clip maker thing or whatever they do with this shit.
Yeah, they got the clip. Yeah.
That old clip maker. You know, get the old clip maker out.
Yeah, I'm a little. You know, I'm not as old as you. I'm not quite the fossil you are, Chris, but I'm getting to fossilized status.
Only
you know what I'm saying?
Only Steve is as old as me, you know?
What's crazy is I was watching Arsenio Hall on a YouTube video today, and he said he was in his 70s. I was like, no way.
Is he really Arsenio Hall?
Arsenio Hall. He's as old as Steve, man. But they both look so young and vibrant, dude.
Oh, Steve is
like Steve. Let me tell you something. Steve on my show, I was like, this dude could keep going for 2 hours. I gotta stop.
Steve is.
I think that's what happened there, man.
I told him the other day. I said, I don't want to sound weird or make you feel old, but man, I said, you're fucking 20 years older than me, and I got some health problems that I created for myself, but I know how taxing some shit can be. I can only imagine 20 years from now what it will seem like. Now, Steve's amazing. And look, the upshoot of this before we go is this. We've got like 7 days left starting tomorrow. We could wind up in a position. I know the number looks amazing, and it is, and we're super thankful. All I would say is this is a very high cost production. So yes, the number is amazing. What I'm trying to say is we could end up in a place with the right last week surge and the closing days and all the momentum of that, where it's very realistic that Steve gets back to sitting down and doing new comics. In particular, new Tyrant is what's on his mind. So that's really what me and Jim and my, we've got a couple. Eric Moss is helping me, and my old partner Andrew Carl. The 4 of us. That's really what we're hoping for and focused on for this last week. It's not about, I believe me. Some people message in, they're like, "Oh, you're not satisfied. You made so much money." Like, that's not the point of it. The point is we want the book in as many hands as possible, so that when Steve does new Tyrant, you know what I mean? That there's a whole plan to it. So
that he knows that he's comfortable to do that.
Yes.
Right now. There is no retirement plan for
For
comic book
comic book
artists,
artists.
right?
Amen,
Yeah.
Robbie. Thank God you said it. Yeah, no, this is, folks, this is Steve Bissette's retirement plan, and hasn't been said that bluntly, but Rockin Robbie brings out the truth. That's the messiah of this thing right here. The podcast Pope. I love it, man. I
Don't
love
compare me to Dune Messiah right now, man. That's what I feel like. I'm going to become a giant sandworm. No,
Kurt,
but you're right, dude. Like, it's these dudes don't get the insurance. 401k, is that what it's called? A 401k? What is it called? But they don't get that stuff, right?
yeah, some of them do. Like some get health insurance and stuff, but I don't think, like, I know some guys who, who get the health insurance from Marvel or whatever, but not, yeah, no, this is Steve's retirement. This is really, I mean, Steve's active, so he's not retiring. He might not draw a ton of comics, but he does like so much shit. Like, all the movie commentaries, and God, he made all the print on demand stuff he's done. It's incredible. It really
Dude,
is.
Kino Lorba is keeping this dude alive right now, man. They're like, yeah, do another fucking commentary. Let's do it. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Oh man. But no, your talk with Steve was great. You've spent what, 2.5, 3 hours together we've spent, or
Yeah,
two and a
pretty
half
much.
hours.
Yeah. 2.5,
Thank you.
something like that.
Thank
Yeah.
you, man. Like, honestly, thank you. And obviously we're gonna chat after, and I'll see you next week for the closing thing. But just thanks so much. And to the audience who joined us and watched, I didn't have the chat on. If somebody asks something, just let me know and I'll answer it. And if anybody's watching and has questions about the campaign, please feel free, message the Kickstarter, direct message me on the old Facebook. Robbie calls it. He tells me they send messages through that thing. So, put them in the mail, whatever. But no, 7 days, 8 days left, folks. Thanks for supporting Tyrant, and Rockin Robbie, my man. You made my day, man. Whatever happens from here, this was a great day.
Dude, you made my day. Thank you so much. You've already made this Kickstarter, but I hope that you make even more. You really finish strong, and good
Thanks.
luck for you and all of your projects going forward.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Chris, for being here. Thank you, PCP Army, for being here. We are dipping out.